Ambassador McKinnon, it's a pleasure to have you on our show. As we know, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang is visiting New Zealand. He's met with the new Prime Minister Bill English and other key government officials, and they've agreed to take bilateral relations one step further. So how to read into the major outcomes of this visit?
Well, we've been very pleased indeed that Foreign Minister Wang has been able to visit New Zealand. As you say, he met our Prime Minister, Mr. English. He also met the Foreign Minister, Mr. McKinnon, and they've had a very good discussion about our bilateral relationship. And this relationship latterly has rested on an agreement between Xi Jinping, Chairman President Xi Jinping, and our previous Prime Minister to characterise it as a comprehensive strategic partnership. And so we want to take that forward both in the political area, in the trade and economic area, and in the area of people-to-people contacts. So there's a variety of ways in which our leaders, in which the foreign ministers have been talking about that, and I'm very confident we're going to see more progress in the months and years ahead.
And also let's talk about this China strategy launched by former Prime Minister John McKinnon in February 2012. It really set an ambitious plan, an ambitious goal with China, relationship with China. Yeah. And so this includes stronger political ties and doubling trade in goods, growing tourism by at least 60%, and education 20%, improving investment opportunities and collaborating on science and technology. How successfully have those goals been met?
Well, we've made a lot of progress towards those goals, and in fact we're now getting to the end of that 5-year time frame that was identified in that strategy. So we're now looking ahead to a new strategy and to new goals. But in terms of the trade, we had a target then of 20 billion two-way trade, which we have reached and in some respects exceeded. China is our largest source of students coming to study in New Zealand. It's now our second largest source of tourists. So in a lot of areas, there's been very significant growth over the past few years. And much of that growth rests on what's happened in China and the growth in the Chinese economy. And we would expect the next 5 years, which is the sort of the next target zone, to be equally productive in terms of the exchanges between New Zealand and China. Many New Zealanders now, of course, are visiting China, as well as Chinese people going to New Zealand.
Well, looking at the bigger picture, Mr. Ambassador, it seems that there has been a popular backlash against globalization, and there are fears about the negative impacts of trade deals and immigration. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this rise of the forces of anti-globalization.
Well, New Zealand for many decades now has been an open economy. We have benefited from the flow of people, of goods, of services, of money, and we believe we will and must continue to do so. So we're very much support actions and agreements and developments which favour the continued freedom of movement. We think that China itself is very committed in that space, and we think the Asia-Pacific region more broadly is very supportive of that, because the benefits to this in the Asia-Pacific region have been very evident. So obviously there are many currents running, but from a New Zealand perspective, what we stand for and what we are looking for in our relationship with China is not just that bilateral benefit, but the fact that together we can contribute to an open and prosperous world.
Mm-hmm. And also, let's talk about the TPP, the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Pact, which also includes New Zealand. Representatives from the 12 countries signed the deal a year ago in Auckland amid protests and criticism. And how do we envision the fate of the TPP now that the U.S. is pulled out of the deal and Japan has said that it's not going to go ahead with the deal without the U.S.? How do you envision the fate of it?
Well, the Trans-Pacific Partnership remains a very important target and aspiration for New Zealand, and we think it's still there. We still need to work towards it. But clearly we have to take account of the current environment, and we have to think about what's the best path ahead. But that agreement rested originally on an agreement which was entered into by New Zealand with a number of other very liberal open economies, and its content and what we aspire to in it are still very important for us. So that continues to be something which will be part of New Zealand's future agenda.
Mm-hmm. Are you still confident about this, some say 12-2 deal?
I think there are a variety of ways we can look at it, and there will definitely be ways that our government is going to be considering very closely as it moves ahead.